The Exile ship was burning when Princess Mareth placed the black royal seal in the human's hand. Her voice steady, her eyes full of grief she had no permission to show. "Captain Jonah Vale, by order of the Celestian throne, you are banished beyond the Ghost Belt. Your crimes are victory without noble blood, loyalty without permission, and saving this empire so publicly that my council can no longer pretend humans are weak." The hangar fell silent, not because of the sentence, but because Jonah smiled through soot and blood, then looked past the guards, past the drones, and asked the one question no prisoner had ever thrown at royalty. "Are you coming?" To every weapon in the chamber turned toward him. 3 days earlier, the Empire had been dying. The Varkari swarm had broken through 9 defense moons and moved toward the capital like hunger given wings. Celestian admirals answered with perfect formations, ancient oaths, and polished confidence. And the swarm devoured perfection, ship by ship, pattern by pattern. Jonah had been only a human liaison from a frontier fleet, placed near the back of the war room like a useful embarrassment, called Dirtborn Mammal, temporary ally, until he noticed what the council refused to see. The swarm was not chasing ships, it was chasing obedience. It predicted every noble maneuver, because nobles had been trained to think beautifully. Not desperately, then the sky cracked open. Jonah stole a scout frigate, dragged 3 terrified engineers with him, and flew into the kill zone not to attack, but to behave wrong. He cut engines, fired backward, hid heat signatures in debris, and made chaos look like strategy. The swarm hesitated for 4 seconds. And for seconds was enough for Mareth. She ordered the fleet to copy the human. Suddenly the Celestian war machine stopped moving like a parade and started fighting like survivors. Cargo haulers became mine layers. Hospital ships became decoys. Cruisers feigned panic. And Jonah's calm voice held them together over burning cums. Mareth watched fear become a weapon. Watched her empire survive because one unwanted man refused to die politely. But victory is dangerous when it wears the wrong face. By dawn, the swarm was broken. By noon, crowds were chanting Jonah's name. By evening, the noble council had decided he had to disappear. Humans were allowed to be useful, never legendary. Mareth argued until her throat burned, but Lord Ovar only smiled and said, "Exactly, Your Highness. That is why he must be removed." So she stood in the hangar, forced to read a sentence that felt like glass in her mouth, while the ghost belt waited beyond the doors, a storm from which no exile returned. Then Jonah asked, "Are you coming too, for one heartbeat?" Princess Mareth forgot how royalty worked. Lord Avar stepped forward, "Captain Vale. You will address her radiance with reverence." Jonah did not bow. "I am," he said. "I just asked whether the only honest person in this room plans to stay with the liars." The nobles erupted. Blades hissed free. Drones charged plasma. But Mareth raised one hand, and the room obeyed. Her voice turned colder than her heart. "You misunderstand your punishment. Captain, you are being cast out alone." Jonah nodded toward the burning ship. "Then you misunderstand Exile, Princess. Beyond that belt are miners your council taxed and forgot. Human settlements used as shields, Celestian refugees too poor to evacuate. If I go there, I am not leaving your empire. I am meeting the part of it you abandoned." The truth entered the room like a blade. Mareth knew the ghost belt was not empty, but she had been taught to call it complicated, distant, unstable. All the clean words rulers use when people become inconvenient. Jonah had patrolled their traded medicine for reactor coils, eaten with families who still kept royal portraits beside leaking oxygen pumps, and now the council was sending him there as punishment, handing a soldier the people who already trusted him. Lord Avar realized at first. "Remove him," he snapped. But Mareth stared at the human with broken armor and impossible nerve. "What would you do?" she asked softly. "If I came with you?" Jonah's smile faded. "I would ask why," he said. She stepped down from the throne platform. "Because I am tired of ruling only the rooms they allow me to see. That was the moment exile became rebellion. Avar screamed treason. The drones locked onto Jonah's chest. And Marith moved before fear could stop her. She drew her blade and cut the seal from Jonah's restraints. Alarms exploded. Guards lunged. Jonah seized a fallen rifle, stunned to soldiers, and shouted, "Princess, ship, now." She ran beside him, not behind him, as plasma fire slashed the hangar. The exile ship lifted, half repaired and half aflame, chased by the same fleet Jonah had saved. Marith gripped the console. "Can you get us through the belt?" she asked. Jonah laughed once, bright and reckless, "Princess. I was exiled by people who think straight lines are strategy." They entered the storm sideways. The ghost belt swallowed them. Stones the size of cities spun through lightning. Dead satellites screamed against the hull. And behind them, missiles vanished in magnetic fire. Jonah opened every outlaw frequency and broadcast. "This is Captain Vale, coming in damaged, hungry, and politically inconvenient. Anyone out there still hate the Council?" For 3 seconds, there was only static. Then voices answered, miners, smugglers, farmers, refugees, human and celestian, all shouting coordinates, landing codes, prayers, laughter. The Forgotten Empire was alive, and it knew the human by name. Marith listened as her throne answered from the dark when the exile ship emerged. The Forgotten Worlds were waiting, not with banners, but with repair lights, defense guns, and children waving from pressure domes. Jonah looked at Marith. "Welcome to exile," he said. She looked at the ragged stars, the abandoned people. The broken seal in her hand? "No," she said. "Welcome to the empire we build next, far behind them." Lord Ovar ordered records erased and fleets prepared. But he made the mistake nobles always make. He thought exile meant absence. He forgot that humans do not become smaller in the dark. They become louder. They become legends. They become the fire others gather around. And by the time the Council understood what it had created, the Ghost Belt was no longer a grave, it was a border. And on the other side stood a princess without a throne, a human without a country, and an empire finally worth fighting for.